When a shy waitress scribbles a sweet crush on a customer's receipt, she thinks it's just a harmless gesture, until she discovers he's the secret CEO of the entire coffee chain. At a small cafe nestled on a corner in the sleepy town of Rivervale, 23-year-old Sophia Lane wiped her hands on her apron and stole a glance at the man in the far booth. He always came in alone, always ordered black coffee with a blueberry muffin, and always left a generous tip. His name was a mystery, but Sophia called him Booth 7. Sophia, a petite young woman with soft brown curls tied back in a messy bun, wore the cafe's teal uniform dress and white apron. Her caramel-toned skin flushed slightly whenever Booth 7 walked in. He was in his early 30s, tall, sharply dressed in a tailored gray suit with pale skin, neat stubble, and striking blue eyes that seemed to hide 1,000 thoughts. She never dared to speak more than a polite hello. But after weeks of silent admiration, Sophia scribbled something reckless. A little note on the back of his receipt. "If I were braver, I'd ask for your name. Yours truly, the girl in the apron." She placed the receipt on his table with trembling hands and walked away. She didn't look back, and she didn't know the truth. He already knew her name. Miles Hawthorne, 32, sipped his black coffee slowly. He wasn't just a customer, he was the founder and CEO of the Hawthorne brew chain. No one in Rivervale knew that their sleepy little cafe was one of hundreds he quietly owned. Miles was used to boardrooms and investors, not waitress smiles and blueberry muffins. But something about Sophia Lane's laugh, soft, nervous, kind, had drawn him in. He'd first come in during a surprise site inspection. Now, weeks later, he visited every Tuesday just to see her. The note on the receipt caught him off guard. As he read her careful handwriting, his chest tightened. It was innocent, sweet, brave in a way that touched him deeply, but she didn't know who he was, not yet. He left a $100 tip beneath the note, stood up, and walked out without a word. Sophia didn't see the way he smiled as he folded the receipt and slipped it into his jacket pocket. He should have told her the truth then. But instead, he had an idea, one that would complicate everything. Back in the kitchen, Sophia peeked through the swinging doors, her heart pounding. He'd read the note, she could tell. But he hadn't reacted, not a smile, not a comment, nothing. Just his usual calm departure. Her co-worker Cassie, a redhead in her late 20s with a no-nonsense attitude, elbowed her. "You finally did it, huh? Told suit guy how you feel." Sophia blushed, hiding her face behind a menu. "I didn't tell him anything, I just hinted." When the day ended, Sophia counted the tips. Her jaw dropped. A crisp $100 bill stared back at her. She clutched it like a sacred relic, unsure whether it was a reward or a goodbye. That night she stared at her phone screen and hesitated before searching for him online. But with no name, no details, Booth 7 remained a mystery, until the next message came. The next morning, Sophia received a friend request on an old art blog she'd abandoned. The username, Nata_7, the message was simple. "I liked your note. I'd like to know you, if that's okay." Curiosity overpowered caution. She messaged back. They started slow. Text turned into voice notes. Nate said he'd been to the cafe a few times and thought she seemed special. He was in finance based nearby and enjoyed local art and coffee. The more they talked, the more Sophia opened up. He never showed his face, no photos, no video calls. But she didn't press. Maybe like her he was shy, maybe it was fate. But Nate was no stranger. He was Miles Hawthorne, hiding behind a screen and a new name, afraid the truth would end what they had before it began. For weeks, Nate and Sophia messaged constantly. She began her shifts smiling, knowing she'd hear from him later. At the cafe, Booth 7 still came every Tuesday. He watched her from afar, keeping the boundary between the world of Miles and the persona of Nate. Sophia doodled little hearts beside Nate's name in her notebook. She shared dreams she never told anyone, like opening her own bakery, painting murals, traveling somewhere warm and far. Nate, Miles, hung on every word. He sent her links to bakery startup grants, complimented her sketches, and always said just enough to show he cared, but never too much to reveal his identity. But secrets have a way of unraveling, and his was just a message away from shattering her trust forever. One quiet evening, Nate asked Sophia if she'd ever be open to meeting in person. Her heart skipped. The idea thrilled and terrified her at once. She typed and erased her answer 3 times before finally sending, "Yes, I'd like that." Miles, still hiding behind Nate's name, panicked. He couldn't meet her as Nate, and he wasn't ready to meet her as Miles either. So he delayed, told her he had to travel for work, promised they'd meet soon. Sophia tried not to be disappointed, but doubts began to creep in. She asked her coworker Cassie if it was weird that she hadn't seen a picture of Nate. Cassie raised an eyebrow. "Girl, that's not just weird, it's sketchy." But Sophia defended him. "He's kind and thoughtful. He listens. He supports my dreams. I don't care about a photo, Cassie shrugged. Okay, but be careful, feelings are real, and so is heartbreak. Sophia tried to brush it off, but deep down a quiet voice whispered, what if you're falling for someone who isn't real? It happened during one of their late-night chats. They were talking about art. Sophia had sent him a photo of a mural she loved, and Nate replied, I saw that same mural last week when I was driving through Rivervale. Sophia's heart skipped. Wait, you've been here? She asked. He tried to backtrack. I meant I saw it online. Someone posted it from Rivervale. Must have mixed it up, but the seed of doubt was planted. She stared at the screen. Booth 7 always came in on Tuesdays. Nate never messaged on those mornings. Nate knew things, small things, that she'd never shared. Sophia wasn't foolish. She'd grown up surviving on tips and trust issues. Her father walked out when she was 6, and her mother worked double shifts just to keep them afloat. She began to piece things together, quietly. And then she did what she hadn't done before. She searched the coffee chain's owner online. There, staring back at her on a news article about Hawthorne Brew's newest location, was a photo of Booth 7. His name? Miles Hawthorne. Her fingers trembled. Nate wasn't just lying, he was him all along. Sophia didn't cry at first. Instead, she went numb. She reread every message Nate had sent, every compliment, every little promise. They were all Miles. Every moment she'd treasured, his support, his encouragement, his affection, was soaked in deception. She skipped her next shift at the cafe. Couldn't stand the thought of seeing Booth 7's face. Cassie noticed immediately. You okay? She asked. No, Sophia whispered. I'm not. That night, Miles, still texting as Nate sent her a message. I can't stop thinking about you. I hope your shift went well. She stared at it for 10 minutes. Then she replied, you should have told me who you were. There was a long pause, then 3 dots, then silence. Miles knew it was over. The next day he came to the cafe again, without the suit, just jeans and a plain sweater. He looked less like a CEO and more like a man trying to fix what he broke. But Sophia didn't come in that day, and he didn't leave a note this time. 3 days later, Sophia returned to work. She walked in, head held high, wearing her teal dress and white apron like armor. When she saw Miles sitting in booth 7 again, her stomach twisted, but she didn't turn around. He stood as she approached, eyes soft. Sophia, please, can we talk? She crossed her arms. You've been talking for weeks, just not honestly. I didn't mean to deceive you, he said, voice quiet. I wanted to know you outside of who I am. I didn't want my title to change how you saw me. You mean you didn't want me to know I was falling for a lie? She shot back. Miles flinched. It wasn't a lie. My feelings were and still are real. Sophia blinked, swallowing the lump in her throat. And if I hadn't found out, would you have told me the truth, or just kept hiding behind your screen and your money? He hesitated. I wanted to tell you. I was just afraid. She looked away, her voice trembling. So was I, and I still am. Then she turned and walked away, leaving him standing there alone with the truth. The days that followed felt hollow. Sophia returned to her routines, wiping tables, brewing coffee, pretending everything was fine. But everything had changed. Even her favorite booth felt tainted now. She couldn't stop hearing his voice in her head. Miles, on the other hand, stayed away. He respected her silence, but each day without her tore him apart. He visited another of his shops in the city, but it wasn't the same. Nothing was. Then one morning, Sophia received an envelope with no return address. Inside was a check. Not from Miles, but from the Hawthorne Dream Grant, a grant for aspiring entrepreneurs, founded by the CEO himself. It was made out to Sophia Lane. Enough to start her bakery. Enough to believe someone cared. There was no note, no signature, just the gesture. Sophia clutched the check to her chest and wept. Not because of the money, but because she finally believed that maybe, just maybe, his feelings had been real after all. The grant check sat on Sophia's nightstand for 3 days before she dared to touch it again. She researched everything, looked up the grant, verified it was real, and even visited the website. Everything checked out. No strings, just an anonymous submission with her name on it. Deep down, she knew exactly who had done it. Still, she didn't reach out. Her heart was torn between gratitude and pain. What Miles had done was kind, but it didn't erase the hurt. Cassie, ever observant, noticed the change in her. You're glowing and scowling at the same time, she said one afternoon. Either you got a secret boyfriend, or you're about to open a secret business. Sophia smirked. Maybe both, maybe neither. But the truth was, the bakery dream that had once felt distant now burned brighter in her chest. She started sketching logos, collecting recipes from her mother's old box, and looking at spaces downtown. She still hadn't spoken to Miles, but his silent gesture had planted something deeper than romance. It planted trust, and it was growing. One rainy Thursday morning, Sophia walked into the cafe to find something waiting at booth 7. It wasn't Miles. It was a small single daisy in a mason jar, Attached to it was a simple tag that read, "You're still seen." Her breath caught. It wasn't another lie, it wasn't a manipulation. It was quiet, respectful, an acknowledgement that she was still in his thoughts, but she had the choice now. Cassie found her sitting at the booth 10 minutes later, quietly staring at the flower. "He's not giving up, huh?" "No," Sophia murmured. "But he's not pushing either." "You thinking of talking to him?" Sophia was quiet a long time. "I'm thinking of forgiving him, but I'm not sure if I'm ready to fall again." And yet that daisy stayed in the break room for weeks, never wilting. 2 weeks later, Sophia dropped off a loaf of cinnamon bread at an office building in the city. The address? The headquarters of Hawthorne Brew. She left it at reception with a note written in her neat handwriting. "It's not a meeting, it's a thank you. Don't wait for anything more." Sophia, Miles sat in his corner office when the receptionist brought it up. He recognized the handwriting instantly. For a moment he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He did both. He took the loaf home, ate half of it in one night. The taste was warm, nostalgic, full of heart, just like her. He didn't respond, he didn't want to push, but the letter told him what he needed to know. The door wasn't shut, just cracked, waiting for time. Sophia's bakery began to take shape. She found a tiny shop with wide windows and old brick walls. She named it Crumbs and Bloom, a tribute to second chances and things that grow from brokenness. She worked day and night, painted the walls herself, tested recipes, made menus. It was exhausting and exhilarating. She poured herself into it. Every ounce of pain, love and healing she'd gone through. When the grand opening day came, the cafe was packed. Friends, townsfolk, even old customers from the coffee shop showed up. Cassie cried as she cut the ribbon beside her. Among the crowd, Sophia noticed a man standing near the back. He wore no suit, no fancy watch, just jeans and a gentle smile. It was Miles. He didn't approach her. He just ordered a lemon scone, left a $20 bill in the tip jar, and placed something beside the register before quietly walking out. It was a receipt. Sophia picked it up after he left. Scrawled on the back in familiar handwriting, it read, "If I were braver, I'd ask for your heart, M." Sophia found him sitting in the park behind her bakery that afternoon beneath a tree whose leaves were just beginning to fall. She didn't say anything at first, just sat beside him. The wind was quiet, the air soft. "I'm not the same girl who wrote that note," she said finally. "I know," Miles replied. "And I'm not the same man who read it." They sat in silence again. Then she added, "I think I needed to fall in love with who you are, not what you hid." He turned to her, hope flickering in his eyes. "Is there still a chance?" She nodded slowly. "Maybe, but this time no lies, no masks, just us." He reached for her hand. Just us. For the first time their fingers met, without fiction, without secrets, and it felt like home. The reunion was not a fireworks display. It was a slow-burning candle. Sophia and Miles agreed to take things slowly. No grand gestures, just honesty. They started over. Every Tuesday, Miles came to Crumbs and Bloom. He sat at the same table, ordered a scone or fresh bread, and stayed until close. Sophia would join him once the last customer left, sometimes just to talk, sometimes to sit in silence. Trust was a fragile thing, and she didn't want to rush. One evening she looked up from wiping a table to find him laughing with Cassie. It struck her, that laughter, how rare it was to hear him truly laugh. Without the mask of Nate, without the cold CEO face, just Miles. "I like this version of you," she told him that night. He looked at her, sincere. "This is the only version that matters now." He didn't try to fix everything. He simply showed up, again and again, and slowly, piece by piece, the cracks between them began to mend. Months passed, and the bakery flourished. Sophia's name began to appear in local articles. "From waitress to entrepreneur," one read. But she didn't care about the headlines. What mattered to her were the people who came in every day, the smell of cinnamon in the morning, and the man who always sat by the window reading a book he never finished. One morning she opened the bakery to find a new bag of flour on the counter. A note was taped to it. "Turn the bag over." She did, and laughed. Written in marker across the back of the bag were the words, "I love you more than cinnamon rolls." Sophia smiled so wide her cheeks hurt. She turned toward the window. Miles was standing outside holding 2 coffees, no suit, no pretense, just a man who had waited for the right moment. She ran outside and hugged him, flour dust smearing across his dark sweater. "You're impossible," she whispered. "But you love me anyway," he replied. "I'm getting there." They laughed. They didn't need perfection, they just needed each other. On their 1-year anniversary of starting over, Miles did something unexpected. He walked into the bakery right before closing and ordered a blueberry muffin and black coffee, the very first order he ever placed. Sophia handed it to him with a smirk. "Going nostalgic on me?" He shrugged. "Something like that." When he reached for the receipt, she noticed he already had something in his hand. He placed his own folded receipt on the counter and quietly slid it to her. Her heart stopped. On the back, written in careful script, were the words, "If you're still that girl in the apron, I'm still the man who never stopped loving her. Will you marry me?" She looked up, tears pooling in her eyes. Miles was already down on one knee, holding out a small velvet box with a delicate ring inside. "Say yes," he said softly. "Say yes to every receipt, every note, every day forward." She whispered, "Yes," before she could even think, and then she laughed through tears. Yes, 100 times. Customers clapped from nearby tables. Cassie screamed in the kitchen. The bakery had never felt more like home. Their wedding was held in the community garden behind the bakery, an idea Sophia dreamed up while redesigning the space to host local events. It was small, intimate, full of flowers and laughter. Sophia wore a simple cream dress with lace sleeves. Miles wore a dark gray suit, no tie, sleeves rolled. Friends from both worlds, hers and his, gathered to witness the merging of something pure. Cassie cried during the vows. Miles' assistant Julian toasted with tears in his eyes. But the moment that stole everyone's breath was the reception. On every table, instead of place cards, sat receipts, each one handwritten with a memory from Sophia and Miles' journey. Their love had started with ink and paper. It was only fitting it be celebrated the same way. Sophia stood beside Miles under a canopy of lights and whispered, "I never thought a note on a receipt could change my whole life." He smiled, cupping her face. "And I never thought the girl in the apron would teach me what love really means." Years later, tucked into the cash register at Crumbs and Bloom, there's a framed receipt. It's the original, faded but legible. "If I were braver, I'd ask for your name. Yours truly, the girl in the apron." Customers always ask about it. Some think it's a joke. Others think it's a marketing gimmick. But Sophia always smiles and replies, "That's where it all began." Now married with 2 kids and running a second location of Crumbs and Bloom, she and Miles look back on that note as more than a memory. It was a symbol of courage, of vulnerability, of choosing love even when it hurts, because love, real love, is built not just on attraction or timing, it's built on truth, forgiveness, and showing up again and again. Moral of the story: sometimes the smallest acts, a note, a kind word, a loaf of bread, hold the power to change lives. Love thrives not in perfection but in the willingness to grow, heal, and trust again. If this story touched you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more heartwarming tales of unexpected love and second chances. There's always another story brewing. Just like love, it often starts in the most unexpected places.